What's up, BookTube? Sandy Golson back here with a very special video. In this video, I will be announcing my 2020 nonfiction book of the year. And I made sure to incorporate as many nonfiction books into my schedule as I thought was necessary, and I even had a nonfiction November list of books that I went through, though that reading progress was stunted a little bit because I was participating in the National Novel Writing 2020 contest, NaNoWriMo. So because I was participating in that, I didn't get an opportunity to read quite as many books, nonfiction books in the month of November as I had intended to. But even that still, I did manage to pick and read earlier in the year my nonfiction book of the year, and it was hands down my nonfiction book of the year, and that book is White Fragility by Robin DiAngelo. And I read that as an ebook on my Kindle, so I'm going to refer to my phone just because I don't actually have the physical copy of the book with me, of course. It says White Fragility: Why It's So Hard for White People to Talk About Racism. And it was written by Robin DiAngelo, as I said, foreword by Michael Eric Dyson, native Detroiter, and also a person who has written a number of books on social topics, as well as some great historical books, a couple of books about Dr. Martin Luther King, including one that I reviewed on this channel, and another one that I intend to read at some point down the line. He also has another book that's getting ready to come out pretty soon. So let me read the description of White Fragility. First, the New York Times bestselling book exploring the counterproductive reactions white people have when their assumptions about race are challenged and how these reactions maintain racial inequality. In this vital, necessary, and beautiful book, said Michael Eric Dyson, anti-racist educator Robin DiAngelo deftly illuminates the phenomenon of white fragility and, quote, allows us to understand racism as practice not restricted to bad people, said Claudia Rankine. Referring to the defensive moves that white people make when challenged racially, white fragility is characterized by emotions such as anger, fear, and guilt, and by behaviors including argumentation and silence. These behaviors, in turn, function to reinstate white racial equilibrium and prevent any meaningful cross-racial dialogue. In this in-depth exploration, DiAngelo examines how white fragility develops, how it protects racial inequality, and what we can do to engage more constructively. So, as you can tell by that description, I'm probably not the audience for this particular book, but that didn't stop the book from being quite interesting to me and a compelling read. It wasn't a particularly long book. Actually, let me go ahead and pull up, see if I can find the page count for this book. I remember devouring it really in a matter of hours, and for me that's pretty significant. So let me see if I can track down the page count here. It says 192 pages. So yeah, it read really fast, and it's just got tens of thousands of reviews on Amazon.com. And as you can imagine, there are a lot of people who were triggered by this book, probably if for no other reason than by the title of this book, not let alone just what the book is actually about. So I'm sure there are a lot of people who looked at the title and said, I'm not touching that one. I just don't agree with it. I don't really care what the substance of the book is. I just am not interested. So, but for me, the book was very powerful. I think it spoke very powerfully in a persuasive argument and a plea, like almost like a letter, like an open letter to a community. To try to get people to listen. Of course, many people aren't going to listen, but Robin DiAngelo still, in a high impact way, makes a very powerful argument about white fragility and the defensive mechanisms that we have that hold us back from making true racial progress. And we see it now here in 2020, perhaps more than many of us ever have in our lifetimes, that this phenomenon certainly is worthy of conversation, and that Robin DiAngelo's book is probably more important than ever for a lot of people. And so I actually discovered this book one day I was on YouTube. I'm on YouTube a lot, so I shouldn't say one day like it was a rare occurrence. I was on YouTube and I was searching for topics, and I started listening to some lectures that were taking place, and all of a sudden Robin DiAngelo's lecture talking about her book popped up, and I'm like, oh, okay, let me listen to her. And I listened to her, and she had kind of a nice delivery, was able to work a little bit of humor into it, and yet she really kind of spoke from the heart, kind of plainly yet powerfully and intellectually. And so I was really impressed by her, and I really went out, I think almost immediately, and I bought the book, the ebook version of this particular book, mainly because I read ebooks a little bit faster, and I knew that this was a book, because it was nonfiction, I would still be able to read fast and still be able to digest and really bring a lot of stuff. And so I actually did highlight quite a bit on my Kindle, a number of passages that I thought were exceptionally important. And I think those are things that are probably either, if I don't read the full book over again, I'm certainly going to go back and review from time to time some of the passages that I highlighted that really made some important points about how we can improve the racial dialogue by recognizing some of our weaknesses. And Robin DiAngelo, in her book, she gives a testimony of a time when she said something that was offensive to, I believe it was a black colleague, and the black colleague challenged her on the offensive, I can't remember if it was a comment or some kind of way that she treated this black colleague. And Robin DiAngelo talks about, confronting people in the moment, but doing it in a respectful and productive way. And so it was really interesting to see her kind of use herself as an example of bad behavior, and in trying to recognize your own personal biases and trying to confront them in a way, and sometimes having people confront you to force you to take a harder look at your own personal biases that you bring, that may be unconscious biases that no one's ever really called you out on. So for that reason, it was really important for me to read that book, and that was one of many reasons why I chose White Fragility by Robin DiAngelo as my nonfiction 2020 book of the year.